I wanted to thank everyone for taking the opportunity to attend our last feedback session for the new homes for Stella Link community feedback session. Before we get started, I wanted to go ahead and open up this evening's meeting to give the Vice Mayor Pro Tem's office an opportunity to say a few words to kick off this meeting. It looks like I'm see who's on the call. There we go. ID, will you be speaking on behalf of the council member, Vice Mayor Pro Tem?
Director Bush, thank you. Yes, I am Dee Dee Chavis, Chief of Staff for Vice Mayor Pro Tem and Council Member Martha Castex Tatum, and I'm happy to be attending this third public meeting on the New Homes for Stella Link on her behalf. And want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us virtually for this meeting. This is the final meeting, public meeting, for you, giving you an opportunity to provide feedback to on the New Homes for Stella Link, on this the best use of this space, and also how you want this community to fit this resident development to fit into the community. So we do appreciate your time and look forward to your interaction and feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. And I wanted to also introduce Ray Miller. He's the Assistant Director with the Housing Community Development Department, HCD, with the City of Houston. Ray?
Thanks, Olivia, and thank you for everyone for joining us this evening. As Dee Dee mentioned, this will be our third and final opportunity for you as the public to engage with us as we embark on this new opportunity. And Olivia is going to talk a lot more about what we're going to do tonight, but I want to emphasize that by you participating in this meeting, this is your opportunity to give your thoughts, your feedback on what you feel is important to build a neighborhood, to build a community, and what are the assets that we're going to need to take and we're going to go place in applications and NOFAs, and make sure that when we go look and solicit developers to bring this development into reality, your feedback is going to be critical on the components to go in here and make this development successful. So thank you for attention tonight. We are excited to hear from you and excited to engage with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray. So I want to go ahead and get started with the presentation. We always want to start with a little bit of introduction so you know who we are, City of Houston. We are the large track team within the Housing Community Development Department. So that's me. I'm the interim division manager within the large track division at the City of Houston's Housing Community Development Department. The other members of our team is Jeremiah Rivetta. He's our community outreach coordinator. We also have Larry Harris. He's our relationship manager on the team. And as you just heard from Ray Miller. A couple of more team members that I shall not forget are unforgettable. It's Dawn Lee, she's our administrative coordinator, and Nathan Washington, our senior project manager. So I want to kind of give you an idea of what we intend to talk about this evening for the next 60 minutes or so, 55 minutes or so. We're going to go ahead and give you a quick little background of what the upcoming opportunities are, or what we plan to build within the Stella Link Willow Bend neighborhood. Kind of discuss how the community engagement is working, or what kind of information we're gathering from you guys this evening, as well as kind of give you kind of the kind of questions we're going to ask. So you kind of have a preview of what information we want to solicit from you this evening. And lastly, that'll be kind of prime time. We're going to break out into one session where now I'm going to turn the mic over to you, and you'll give us that direct feedback from on how you want to inform the developer selection process, and what information you want the developer that's going to build the homes in your neighborhood, what information you want the developer to know in the breakout session. So just a little bit about the Harvey Single Development Program. that sits within the Housing Community Development Department with the city. So our ultimate goal is to create new home ownership opportunities for Houstonians that were impacted directly or indirectly by Hurricane Harvey. The homes that we are planning to build, it's very important to us that we match up with the needs of your neighborhood. We are planning to build and what we call are attainable homes. They're homes that are priced at affordable level, so that we can make sure that everyone gets an opportunity who wants a home can purchase a home. In addition to the attainable homes within the community, there will also be market rate homes. So it's going to be home ownership for all. Why, in short order, why is the city making this investment in the Stella Link Willow Bend community? Well, first we have to start about what are the income levels for the city of Houston. And in those individuals that are be interested in purchasing homes, what we see or how we define affordable housing is at 80%, 120% AMI. So what does that look like? So for 2020, the 80% AMI level was at $63,050, and that's 80%. In 2021, we only saw about a $300 increase in that income level, the average area mean income for the city of Houston. That was a less than 50%, less than 0.50% increase. Now, as you know, that even though the income increase only went up 0.50% on average throughout our city, the sales price has gone up tremendously. So we're looking at a 14.9% increase in the average sales price of homes. So as you can see, the income is not matching the cost to own a home in our city. And the median sales price went from 295,000 in April of 2021 to the 343,990 in April of 2022. That's a 16.6% increase in median home sales. So as you can see, the steady incline of home sale prices in the Houston area. So as you see that the income is not matching the cost or the sales price of housing. So what we're showing is that the dream of home ownership is becoming less and less attainable. So that's why we're here. Also, one key fact that I want to point out for the Stella, specifically in the 77025 zip code, which is the zip code that our development falls under. The renter versus owner occupied statistic. So as you can see, overall in the state of Texas, 62% of citizens within Texas own their own home. In Harris County, 54%. So it's a little bit lower than the Texas average, but even lower for 77025. It's actually 40% of all residents within the zip code are owners. So there are more renters in the Stella Link neighborhood than there are homeowners. So we want to kind of balance out, or we kind of try to flip that statistic if at all possible. That's why we're increasing the housing stock, building more homes at an attainable level to give an opportunity to those renters within the neighborhood to keep their children in the same schools, so they can continue to go to the same grocery store, and give your neighbors an opportunity to own homes in 77025. So here's the development that we've mentioned this entire time. So it is comfortably, let me go back, sitting right at Highway 90. This is Highway 90 and Stella Link, and it goes all the way up until the Willow Bend cross street. So this is Willow Bend, this is Stella Link, and this is Highway 90. So it's a vacant piece of land along Willow Bend and Highway 90. We are subdividing that land. So if you can see it blocked out in red, So we're taking on 12.2 acres. Based on our engineers, we're looking at building up to 194 homes, and 99 of those homes will be attainable homes. This is also, we are still under a due diligence phase. So basically, the city of Houston is under an option agreement to purchase this land. During this process, we do a lot of due diligence, everything from sound studies to traffic studies, as well as we do environmental studies on the property to make sure that the land itself is a viable property and safe for Houstonians to live in. So what does this process look like? As mentioned, we identified the site. We went under option. We went to city council and got approval to option the site. That gives us the authority to do that due diligence. And then we are in the phase right now. So this is the last day in May, and we started in late March, and we had 3 sessions within the community to gather community feedback. The feedback we received tonight, as well as the feedback we received over the last month, will be incorporated into our NOFA. So what is a NOFA? It's a notice of funding availability. I know that made a lot more sense as I broke that acronym down, but basically it's a bid process. We have, what we're going to do is we're going to put out a request for applications for developers to help us or partner with us to develop, help us put in the streets, utilities. And again, we're looking at raw land, and then ultimately build homes. And during that process, each developer that submits an application, they will be scored. And that scoring criteria, the portion of that scoring criteria, the developer that really, really makes an earnest effort and incorporates the feedback received in this session will be given a higher score than the others. So that's how we're going to make sure that your voices are heard and your information, that the feedback we receive during our community engagement is directly shows up in the developers' designs, and that's the whole goal. We're looking at the fall of this year to have a developer selected, and you should see houses on the ground by winter 2024. There's a lot that goes in between the land development phase. It can take several months, and then there's home construction. So this is an endeavor. This is a partnership that's going to take a little bit of patience, but we're going to get it done for you. So this is a preliminary site plan. Part of our due diligence that I mentioned is we have engineers that will take a look and see how many possible homes that we could get on the site. So we're sitting at 194. That's taken into account, like I said, the streets, as well as we want to add a certain amount of detention to make sure that this property itself doesn't flood, as well as we don't flood out our neighbors. It's very important to us as a city. So what does this process look like? So now you kind of know what we've done as a city thus far. And so the question is, how can I buy a house in this beautiful piece of property at the corner of Stella, Lincoln, Bend? So again, we're looking at 194 homes. 49% of those homes will be market rate. So market rate, what does that mean? So based on the comparable comps within the neighborhood, the chosen developer, awarded developer, will be able to price their houses at those market rate comps, or whatever is selling based on the size and composition, meaning ones, twos, and threes within the neighborhood. And because the city is making such a significant investment, we are buying the land on behalf of the developer. That developer is going to reduce the price of their homes. Remember, every house needs to look the same. So he's building market rate homes because of our investment. They've agreed to price it at a level so that those people who are still waiting on their 16% increase to match with the housing prices can still own a home today, or own a home in 2024. So those market rate developers, they'll go through the regular home buyer process, go to their bank, go to their mortgage company, and get their mortgage, buy the house. The home owners or prospective home buyers who are at that $63,350, that's 80% area mean income, that were living in our city at the time Hurricane Harvey hit, will what will happen is someone within our department will income certify them, make sure they're at that level, make sure they were actually living in the city at the time Hurricane Harvey hit, and then um, because of the difference in the sales price from the market rate and whatever you're pre-approved for. So a home buyer will come and say, you know what, I have this pre-approval letter. I already went to my bank and I was told that I could, based on my income and my credit and a lot of other factors, I qualify for a house at this rate. And because that difference between the market rate and what they qualify for, again, this is a mortgage just for everyone in the property. It's a mortgage like everybody else. Um, we're going to provide a sales price that hits them right at their pre-approval letter. And that difference is affordability gap. So we're filling in that gap for all of our Houstonians who are impacted by Hurricane Harvey. Now that is in the form of a forgivable loan. And when we say forgivable, every year that the home buyer is in the house, that amount that they were given or the amount that that sales price was reduced is forgiven over time over the 5-year period. And so what happens after the 5 year, the city will release the lien on their property and then they become a traditional home buyer just like everybody else. So who are these potential home buyers that we've been talking about since I've begun the conversation? This is just a profile of what your neighbor that are going to buy into the Stella Link Willow Bend community, who they could possibly be. So just think about a young couple just starting out. They just got married. They're in their 20s. They have a young infant, so they're a family of 3. They both just recently graduated from college. So say the wife is an admin assistant, her salary, which is and these are based on the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, income salary for the city of Houston, making around $21,870 per year. The husband is a firefighter, and his income is $33,720 per year. They are at the area mean income level for the city of Houston. They're actually below that 63,350 that I mentioned at $5,750. So they would definitely be a strong candidate for home ownership for our community and will receive that affordability gap assistance that we discussed earlier. Let's think about a larger family or a different type of family. So this is the full house. This is a nuclear family of 4 plus an uncle that served in the military. So this is a decorated Purple Heart veteran. He's 100% disabled, and his disability income brings in about 39,984 for the family, and is added in the family household income. The wife in this scenario is actually an inspector with the city of Houston. So her salary is at 42,160. So the father is actually a stay-at-home parent. He's hanging out with the uncle and he's taking care of the kids. That means that the household income is 83,650 for a family of 5, and they would also be a recipient of affordability gap assistance from the city. And they would be your neighbors. So now that we kind of know who's going to be moving in, it's important that those who are either living within the Stella Link Willow Bend community provide the feedback, or those prospective home buyers are available to let us know what they want the houses to look like. So again, this period is happening now. Today is the last meeting. It's either online or in the community. So we were doing hybrid meetings to give you a chance to either show up in person or like we're doing right now. And what will happen is this is the last session we're going to gather feedback. Well, we will come back and give you an update of what was the feedback we received over the last month and give you a recap. That'll probably be set for mid-July. Don't be surprised if you don't see signage throughout the settling community that looks a lot like this. We're going to have banners and yard signs, is even little postcards to keep getting that feedback coming. You'll be able to always go to our website and gather or actually give us information on what you want your community to look like. So right now, what we have available for you is our social pinpoint website. So when you go to the City of Houston website for Homes for Selling, there'll be a hyperlink for you to go to the social pinpoint website. So we'll gather information. This site is bilingual. There's a mapping tool for you to do, basically drop a pin on a map. So if you know of a park or a specific house on a block in a neighborhood that you like, you can drop a pin and we can look at it so we can get a better idea. Sometimes it's hard to describe it. Sometimes I can show you better than I can tell you type of thing. So that's why that mapping tool for you to drop a pin is there. There's also a survey for you to fill out. One of the questions in that survey that's very important to us is, we know that this neighborhood is very prominent. There's a club very prominent within this community. And so we want to know is that the route you want the developer to take, or you want to see an actual HOA within the community? But we're asking you to provide that information to us to inform that NOFA process, so we can give that information directly to the developer. Then if you just have ideas, if you just want, outside the survey, outside of dropping that pin on a map, if you just want to put your thoughts on the ideas wall, don't hesitate, please do. So here's an idea of the site. There's that Stella link map with that nice little triangle so you can see again where we subdivided the site. That's the ideas wall. They're like little sticky notes. So you can just enter in as much information that you like. The good thing about the ideas wall, if there's somebody who's already, again, this has been going on for a couple of weeks, who's already had an idea that you were thinking of, you can kind of give it a thumbs up. You can agree, or you can put a fresh idea and see how much traction your idea gets within the community. So what kind of information are we soliciting from you today? So here's an example of the questions you'll be asked during our breakout session. We want to kind of get an idea of facade. We're kind of get an idea of the aesthetics of the neighborhood. We don't want to assume. We can see that this community is a mixture of townhomes and single family detached. And is it what you see or what's happening, what the development that's in the community that already there or what could be coming? Do you like it? Do you want that to continue? Is there a facade that you prefer over something that you don't? Give us that level of feedback so we know what designs make sense for the Stellalink Willow Bend neighborhood, or what would you like to see that's not already being built? And we'll do our very best to incorporate that within the NOFA. What makes a house feel like a home? That can be so many different things. Are you talking about porches? How do you want to make sure that you have a garage that you can drive into? Do you want your parking adjacent to your property? All those kinds of things. Give us that feedback. That would be awesome. Density and good design. We're going to be very honest, and we're doing our very best to make sure the houses stay affordable. So there is a level of density versus giving you the opportunity to kind of spread your wings and not be so adjacent to your neighbor. But it is a balance for us as a city, and a balance for us for developers to keep these homes affordable. Nonetheless, give us your feedback on what you'd like to see as far as, if we are going with a density model, how could you still make sure that we maximize your livable space? What does that look like for you? How do you make sure that even though you may be attached in your home townhome style, you still feel like your house is a home? That'd be very helpful. Like, again, how do you make a townhome feel like a house? Designing for connection. We realize that SolarLink is very since it's close to Highway 610, it's somewhat inside. It's definitely within inside the Beltway. There are already options for connectivity throughout the community, not just within the development itself. See the benefit of a metro stop literally right on the site itself. But how do we use that to make sure you have access to the community at large? Do you see a bike trail? Do you see a B-cycle station within, like planted on your on the site itself? to ensure that you not only have an opportunity to drive to where you want to go, but if say you want to bike, say you want to be a little bit more walkable, and there are opportunities to make it a walking trail from your community, the Stella and Bluebell community, to somewhere else within the neighborhood. Give us that feedback. That'd be very helpful. It's something that we might be able to, within reason, incorporate within the NOFA. And as the site design suggests, there's a lot of green space. Not only can it is going to be used for detention, but how can we double that space and give it a dual use? Is there a need or a desire for communal space? Do you want to see like I said, a dog park or a walking trail, or would you like to have barbecues and have an opportunity to again make the community a community? Give opportunities for your neighbors to come outside and maybe convene. Have what happened to that good old block party? Maybe that's something that we can build into the design. So now it's time for the actual conversation. Now we're here for your feedback. So I wanted to give you kind of give you a preview so you kind of know what to expect when we go into our breakout session. That will be facilitated by our outside consultants through Hcad Robinson. So they will be taking over and helping because we wanted to make sure that you're free to say what you need to say, and we will be available via chat. But that's why we asked for a third-party facilitator to gather the information on our behalf. So we'll be using Google Jamboard. If you're not familiar, they will be navigating the discussion. So as you either provide feedback verbally, you can come off of mute and give us your feedback and just let us know what you want to say. You might want to raise your hand if you're familiar with using Microsoft Teams, or you could always just put your information in the chat, of course, if you're not driving. I just wanted to just remind everyone that, of course, this information is going to be what we're going to give to the developer. So we need actionable items that we can put into the NOFA. So when I say actionable, I'm just saying there's some things that are outside the realm of the site itself, even outside of the purview of the housing department, and some things that are infrastructure issues within your community that might be outside of the city. So the purpose of this discussion is to make sure that we have feedback that we can give to our developer so that they can incorporate your needs and wants within the NOFA. So here are just some of the comments that we've received so far that were kind of in line of what we're looking for. Trees, walking trails that we discussed, a walking path to the loop. Those are all color shapes to just kind of put that in your mindset. This is not the power of suggestion, but just to put that in your mind. This is the kind of feedback that we're looking for. Again, here is the link, the direct link for the City of Houston's New Homes at Stella Link website. But there's directly the bit.ly link for the website. You can get to the social pinpoint site directly from our City of Houston site. And that's my presentation. I wanted to go ahead and give our consultants at Hcad Robinson an opportunity to go ahead and get us started with the Google Jamboard. Thank you so much.
Olivia?
Yes.
Yes, before you leave, we've had 3 or 4 meetings already. Of course, it's the same thing. You're presenting it to us like we're going to buy the homes there. And really, the audience that you're talking to are the people that are living around this proposed property. Until we hear the results of some of these studies, I think we're still going to feel uncomfortable about the addition of any housing here, even though you've come down in the number of houses you've first came out with, which, scared the pants out of some of us, and that's a good move. But we haven't seen, at least I haven't, I shouldn't say haven't seen any of the results of the study on traffic, on noise, on any of the things that affect us as home owners in the Stella Link, Main Street, Willow Bend area. Mainly it's residential, as you know, single family. And we've put a lot of money, time, effort into our homes and neighborhoods. So until you address how we're going to be affected, I don't think we're going to be quite satisfied. Your pitch is to people buying homes there. I hope you're able to sell them, but we're not going to probably be the ones to buy them.
Right. So I do understand that we do have a mixed audience of home buyers and homeowners within the community. So we really don't expect you to sell your house to buy into our community at all. But your feedback as residents and community members and community stakeholders is valuable to us. That's one. Secondly, the traffic study for one, the sound study, that's the first thing. The sound study we do conduct this. We're in the due diligence phase. We will not release that information until we release the NOFA because that information has to come out all at the same time for our developer. We can't give you a preview or a preview just to the community, and there might be a developer in the audience, and then someone gets information prior. It has to all go out at the same time. That's the procurement law. Or regulatory. So the traffic study is also underway. So all of these studies are not complete. That's why you haven't seen once they are complete, that will be part of the NOFA. And everyone who has registered or given us their email on our website, when that NOFA is released, you'll get we'll give you the link to where it is on the City of Houston's procurement website. And then you can download all of the information all at the same time. I see a hand. Let me just go back to, is that Sheila?
Hi there, this is Sheila. I wasn't sure how this worked. I just kind of concur with the previous speaker. Again, we own the building immediately to the north of your site, and I run a landscape architecture business out of there. So we're really interested in the look and feel for what we'd be looking at and what keeps the neighborhood at a good value. We're concerned about some of the density issues. I'm concerned about the park spaces, thinking the detention and park can be one and the same. Can sometimes, cannot be. We're concerned a lot about the traffic. The Harmony School traffic situation is really, really a challenge. Every single day, Stella Link is blocked up both directions every day. So we're really concerned about the traffic, and we'd certainly like to see some of those reports. And what you just said a little bit, Olivia, concerned me, that it's kind of like you're going to do all these reports and nobody can weigh in on them, and you're going to issue those to a developer, but that doesn't give us a chance to weigh in on that. That's one comment. And the other comment, will there be anybody involved that lives in the community, in the neighborhood, on the selection committee for the developer? Thanks. I'll mute.
Okay, so I guess I'm not quite sure if it's a third party study that's conducted. So there wasn't really a weigh-in from the community. It's an independent study. So the city is not weighing in. We have to take the information as it comes. So all we will do is release it, and based on the information, we will make a decision whether or not it's still a viable project for the city. That's why we're doing due diligence. So and just so you, to give you some additional information, typically a traffic study is just the traffic flow in and out of a site. Because of all the feedback we received and the valuable feedback we received, we've asked to expand the traffic study to a 1 mile radius because we were also concerned about the school traffic of the site. So we'll do a 1 mile radius as well as the site flow in and out of the community. So we are waiting on that study to come in just like everyone else. So there isn't a comment period for the community on that traffic study. So I appreciate you being on the call to give us the feedback about, the design, the facade. If you, like you said, if your business is adjacent to the site, there should be some continuity between our development and any existing buildings. If that makes, sense going from commercial to residential. But I mean, that I've seen it in a lot of neighborhoods in plan communities, like let's just say Sugarland, where you see that continuity between the residents and the businesses within the neighborhood. And we would like that same level of aesthetic continuity. If I missed anything, Sheila, don't hesitate to come off of mute. Because I think there was a third point in there, but uh again, if there's and if it is, I can answer questions within the chat. I think Davi with Escure, did you want to go ahead and open up the Jamboard so that we can start collecting any additional feedback?
Absolutely, and Niharika will be running that for our team. Thanks so much, Olivia.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, actually. Yeah, sorry. Thank you again for joining us tonight, everybody. My name is Niharika. I'm with Osaka Robinson, and I'll be a facilitator for the rest of our time together. My colleague Davi will also be joining us in the chat room, and we're going to have a facilitated conversation through the Jamboard that you can see on your screen now. You have two ways to participate. Please use the raise hand icon or the chat. And if you use the raise hand icon, you can unmute yourself. We'll ask you to unmute yourself, and you can share your idea, or you can agree with an idea, or you can add on to an idea that's already existing on the Jamboard. If you have any questions about the development, please reach out here. I'm just pasting. Yeah. And um, and remember that the summary of the feedback will be incorporated into the NOFA for developers to respond to. It'll be a significant component if you can give us as much of a clear feedback right now as possible, and just think about what makes this important to you. We're going to spend about 5 to 10 minutes per topic, and I'm going to start with the first one. The first one here, we're going to talk about what makes a house or home feel like it's part of the community. As you can see in the images, we have different kinds of houses. We have detached, townhomes, duplex, and fourplexes. We can even start talking about if it's materiality that you want to focus on, if you want to focus on landscaping, trees, how does the front look, what kind of floor, like the levels, floors that you would want, any of those features that you think will make your home feel like it's part of the community. That will be a very good I guess starting point to start talking about right now.
I see a hand for Sheila. Hi, Sheila.
Yeah.
Okay, hey there, how are you? It's tough to have a design firm on the call. Sorry about that. So we were curious about had there been any discussion about doing anything that was more in the mid-rise world? Just it's such an expensive site, and I see your references here with the mid-century modern, which is certainly part of this neighborhood, but based on your density, those didn't really seem very applicable. So we were really curious if there had been any discussion about mid-rise, 4-story kind of product, not a high-rise, obviously wouldn't fit there. But just curious about, has that been discussed at all, trying to make better use of the land, perhaps? I think the frustrating part is that there's not really a very detailed land plan yet, and it looks like it's hard to figure out from that one little sketch, where a car is going to be, how many, garages will there be, whatever the materiality is. I get that, should be somehow part of the family and consistency. But it's some of these prototypes just, the townhouse example is, not very attractive. The old mid-century modern stuff can be beautiful. The duplex picture looks more like it comes from Montrose. It's not really kind of part of this community. So I'm not sure that any of those speak to me personally as fitting this area and in your goals of density. So I guess our question is really more about how do you do density that makes sense, doesn't cause a traffic problem, and provides plenty of green space. So we were thinking that something that was more multi-story might might afford a nicer ground plane and give more green space back to the site, as another option. Thanks.
Thank you for your feedback. We will be considering all these questions as and when the decision for design is formulated. Does anybody else have anything else to say? Do anybody want to talk about bedrooms or spaces inside the house? Is there an opinion on that? And spaces even within your home and on the exterior of the house as well, porches, places for kids and pets to play. Okay, so if nobody has anything to add here, I can move on to the next slide. So in this one, we want to discuss how can we make slightly denser developments that we were already discussing feel like they belong. If anybody has any suggestions or opinions on that, that would be really nice. Yeah. Are there any features from houses that particularly speak to their homeliness, or if there's a particular feature that does not speak to that as well? I don't know if your hand was raised, Sheila.
Right. Well, if nobody's going to speak up, you can trust me. I'll speak up. Of your images here, in terms of sheer aesthetics, the bottom left, which looks like it may be 19th Street and the Heights or some of the Sullivan Brothers product, is a very nice product. It is pretty dense. There's not much room between the houses. There's also a lot of well done streetscape on some of those examples. The one on the lower right looks like really tired old Montrose housing that's sinking into the ground. The other ones look kind of very Charleston. If you could achieve that lower left, I don't know that, because I don't know if you've done any of these studies to see if any of this housing type actually fits on here and how you would achieve 194 homes with that look. That's not really ours to figure out, but just in terms of sheer, just aesthetic to us, that one has probably the most appeal. The bottom right one, you should put a big X on. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask one more follow-up question?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, thanks. I meant to ask this earlier. Do you know, in the current Atlas 14 world, what the finished floor elevations will need to be in this area? Because I think that elevation issue is going to really impact whatever the first floor requirement is, how these look and feel, and how that establishes the character, and just sort of building up. Just even if you don't know that answer this minute, I get it, but I think that's something that should be put in the criteria because it's going to affect the aesthetics.
Okay, I guess we can move to the next one. How can green and communal spaces help build community? In this one, like Olivia had mentioned before, we can talk about any kind of playgrounds or green spaces that have that you've seen and you can ideate on right now. That would be really nice. We can even talk about art or sculptural features. We can talk about gathering spaces, block party spaces, benches, covered spaces, any kind of green and communal spaces would be that you can think of would be nice here. Yeah, Sheila.
Sorry, I don't mean to take up all the airspace, but if people aren't going to speak up, I don't know how many people are on this call or at the school, but again, I am a landscape architect, as I already said. So clearly my focus and yours at Asakura Robinson is about creating green space creates community. So somebody also mentioned earlier in the chat, shade is paramount in our area. Having green space that is flexible, can be used for many purposes, whether it's community gatherings, playgrounds. We need that indoor, outdoor, public space, green space. And I repeat what I said again, the ratio, which is, again, there isn't really a detailed land plan. The ratio is really important to public space that's sort of open public space for the whole community, and then individual yard spaces. And where does that stop and start? So where's the general public space, the semi-public space, and the private space? And our interest is seeing that there's enough green space to serve this number of houses, whether it's a central park, whether it's linear parks, whatever it is. I think it needs to be accommodated within this community to make it feel like a community. Thanks.
It's really nice.
I don't know how to put my hand up. I don't see a
Yeah.
hand thing. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sure.
I think that any available space needs its green space needs to be, I understand it needs to be for the community, but nothing destroys the community faster than flooding it. So I think that the primary purpose of the green space should be flood control, and then draw down from there how it can be beneficial for the kids living in that community. And I'm going to go back on mute.
Yeah, Sheila, I'm really appreciating the way that you're showing up in this call, and I'm struggling to communicate my thoughts on it because it feels really disingenuous. This project of this part of it asking for feedback. I think everyone wants to ensure that there's no flooding. Everyone wants to ensure that there's space to build a community. It just feels like our concerns aren't being addressed.
Yeah, clearly, to echo, I think it was Jane also that just said that clearly flooding is pretty important to us too. We were flooded up. We lived close to here, and our house was flooded in Harvey, and we had to leave and move out, and weren't able to move back. So we are really sensitive to the flooding issue personally. And there is a lot of open space around this whole area. So just not paving paradise would also be just a good way to think about this. That's again circling back to our original comment. That was why we were asking about something that was more of a mid-rise idea to try to have less area covered. Anyway, sorry to repeat.
I would vote for that. It's Jane. Again, I don't know how to raise my hand. I'm sorry. If it takes a mid-rise or something to keep it from flooding, that's what I can't imagine. That's what I would like. Okay, I'm gonna go back on mute.
Can I ask a question just for clarification? Do you mean like mid-rise condominium or like a mid-rise second or three-story townhome?
I'm not sure what Sheila meant, but when she said that if you went for more of a multi-story thing, what I thought she was saying is if you go up more, you have more permeable ground if you don't just
Yeah.
concrete everything in around it. But I'll let Sheila.
Jane, thanks. Yeah, you read us right. We were thinking more of a condominium type of product that could still have ownership. I mean, people do own condominium. And we actually live in a condominium project right now ourselves,
Four-story.
a 4-story product in Montrose, since we left our single family house in that neighborhood, or just north of that neighborhood. Just again, just trying to think, what else could be done, and how much is there a foregone conclusion that this is a bunch of little tiny lots wedged on this land. And I guess that's another thing. That's just sort of a question. You haven't bought the land yet. You're still in your due diligence period. You don't know if it's going to pencil out. You don't know. There's just so many unknowns. It would be just nice to have a little more design happening before it goes out to developers to test some of these options.
So the way the process works is we had our outside consultant give us a design plan to see what was possible, but ultimately our developers are going to submit their own individual unique designs. That's why you don't see the detailed site plan. That's for the developer to submit to us for our in their application. So this is the first time that we've heard that idea of the mid-rise condominium. Um, I mean, I don't know why this feels disingenuous. I don't want to, poke the bear necessarily, but I appreciate, like I said, the feedback, and that's why we're here. We wouldn't be in the community if we weren't seriously considering all of the information we're receiving. And that's, I don't know, that's a really good idea. I mean, if you don't feel like it's going to change the landscape of your neighborhood, um, I mean, it's not a bad idea, and then, like you said, it'll give you a lot more, green space. It's just the first time this has come up in the discussions we've had.
This was platted rather for commercial. It was kind of office warehousey kind of stuff. And that school used to be a kind of a high-end lab research facility. The buildings north of our building were also lab buildings. So this was a little commercial POA, all for many, many years when it started in the 70s. And so the intent was at some point, people thought there would be more commercial industrial kind of uses. And then the biggest landowner ended up going to the city of Houston and getting, because he has the most votes, he was able to change the designation to allow for residential. And so that sort of changed up what this area was going to be.
Mm.
So that happened, relatively recently, maybe in the last 2 years. So we thought we probably would end up with some homes homes there. I'm just giving you a little bit of the history. It really wasn't ever thought to be another neighborhood. It wasn't going to be like across the street with those lovely small mid-century modern homes that neighborhoods having quite a resurgence of interest. So it's a different use. And again, the school was a high-end lab facility. So it's changing. It changes, right? It's reuse. It's almost, it's not quite inside the loop, but it's certainly inner city. So
Mhm.
how this looks and feels and how the spaces connect to our existing area, there's a fitness facility, there's other offices, other professional services offices there. There's the distribution center to the south of us. I mean, it's a very industrially section from our street, our neighborhood down to alternate 90.
Mhm.
So that's why it's hard to look at those pictures, those precedent pictures of mid-century modern and duplexes and townhouses, because that's not really the fabric. So it would be nice to think about, as this morphs into something else, what is that? And I'm not sure it's any of the things that have been shown yet.
So are you thinking, when you said industrials, I always automatically thought about loss. Is that the
Yeah,
kind of
that would be
thing?
fantastic. In
Okay.
my opinion, I mean, I'm just one person. My husband's here with me, so we're kind of in unison here. But anyway,
Okay. Or you're two
I'm
people
sorry.
now. You're two people.
We're two people. We're two
Okay.
people, not just one person.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I would like to say again, with regard to flooding, I don't know how to use the hand thing. I'm sorry to just barge into the meeting. I apologize. Um, if you build, even if you do the townhomes, and I agree with Sheila, I don't think it would look. I don't like any of these options, to be honest with you, except the one that's like the heights. If you build them on pier and beams, I mean, it's more expensive, but it seems like you're just willing to throw whatever at it. So why not build it pier and beam where it's permeable ground underneath it, like in the heights? And so, and then build it to where, there's no skirts, there's no scouring, like a little pilings, not like in Galveston, just go up, 2 feet or whatever it takes to go up to do the engineering for it. I mean, that in and of itself would, the traffic and flooding is the big issue with the adjoining neighborhood. And if you figure out some way to get permeable ground underneath these houses, like putting them on an old-fashioned pier and beam, that might, you might find you get a lot less resistance.
Hello, could I make a comment, please? Hello, can you hear
Yeah.
me?
We can hear you,
Yes,
yes.
yes, we can.
Okay, I don't know how many people are listening to this, and I don't know if Sheila also knows this about the owner of this property who's selling it to the city has submitted a replat of the remaining space on this whole area to do a very similar thing. I assume that he's taken the money that he's getting from the sale of this to be able to do what he's proposing to do, but as it's platted and going into replat, that what he's showing is pretty much a lot of the same thing, a lot of individual lots, single separated lots. And it's, I think it's close to 170 something additional houses.
Thanks for that info. I did not know that.
Yeah, I think that came up shortly after the last of these presentations, and it came across as a replat on the plat survey that comes out weekly from the city.
You know, I don't know if this is the appropriate group to ask the question to, but Olivia, I guess this is to you. And there, I read a bunch of the comments this morning on the website, and um, there were a lot of good comments and questions about the value of the land. And I think a lot of us were taken aback about the price. And we're talking about affordable housing. And it's a $14 million purchase for 12 acres, which is, I mean, it's amazing. We should probably sell our building if that's the kind of money the land is worth. So, I mean, can anybody speak to that? It just seems a bit above market rate.
So I know that, so the comparisons that are being made on the website and have been made during the public comment period is that comparing the Hcad value and the market value, or what we've negotiated with the owner. The Hcad value is right around $5 to $6 square foot, and we're at $24 square foot, 20 or 26. So that is actually for land. And the land this, between the Beltway and 610 is a reasonable price. We've had the property appraised as part of our, before we even went to city council, is actually relatively low for land on appraised value. It goes up to $35-$40 a square foot. Inside the downtown corridor, we're almost getting $100, $150 a square foot. That's for land. When we were looking at home sales, for an individual house in this neighborhood, the price has gone up to almost $188 a square foot for a house. So I know it seems like a high number, but in this market, that's a reasonable price, and we're actually on the low end according to our appraisal. So why Hcad, is giving the developer and the owner at the time such a reasonable tax rate, I cannot answer that question. That's not for me to answer. But the market rate for the house is within reason. It's actually we got it for a good price. So I don't know, Sheila, that's you re-raising your hand, but I don't know,
No, sorry. No, I didn't need to do that. Sorry.
I want to be mindful of the time. Did we get to the last of the? Oh,
Yeah, we still have one question. Right.
We've got one more question. Just don't hesitate. Come off mute. Let's just end this last. Let's end this last stretch strong. And take us to the end.
This last one, you want to discuss how can we build connectivity into these developments, and we can talk about safety and features for biking, pedestrians, and yeah, anything else you want to add to this slide?
Well, I'm just curious, what's the picture on the right supposed to be talking about?
That's one of the streets.
Yeah, but what's the purpose of the picture?
The size of the sidewalks,
Oh,
The walkability aspect.
the walkability.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the only connectivity here is, there's not, the closest bike trail is up on Braze Bayou. I'm sure you know that. There's a bus stop as you're showing near, I guess it's closer to Willow Bend. There's a bus stop in front of our building. So there's a bus route that's not terribly active. I mean, along through here. I mean, it's still a pretty car-oriented part of town.
You're right.
And just one more comment about the students at Harmony, because it goes through 12th grade. Generally, they do not seem to be using, from what we've observed, public transportation so much. They're mostly a pickup drop-off place, which kind of gets back to my earlier comment about the traffic. It's a bit of a bummer. More people don't have a way to use public transit, because it would really help the traffic situation on that corridor. But that's not what we're observing. We're observing pick up, drop off. There's no bike activity that we see. And again, there's just a couple of bus routes.
Well, I'm a little bit concerned that any traffic study being done now is not going to take into account the development of the remainder of the property, which has its main entry off of Stella Link, one lot length from Willow Bend, which I don't see how you can have the main in and out for the whole, not this one, but the other one, that close, and then all the traffic that's going to it's going to be missed, it seems, in any traffic study gets done.
So I had a question about that when Olivia said that the traffic study was expanded to, I think you said, a mile. Would that not pick up that other proposed development? One question. And the second question is, I think the block length criteria for the city between entrances to streets and new communities is 3 to 350 feet separation requirement.
So yes, it is a mile radius around the site. The information regarding the replat is new information. Our traffic study is underway. So and a part of the way the study works is there are someone that's on site that does the count, but we also have to submit our results to the our office of city engineer, and it goes through our permitting center. So we're hoping that there's a connection of the dots. It's as a housing department, because it is an independent study. Where there's not a lot of talking back and forth between our department and the third party that's conducting the study. It goes directly to our permitting department. So all of that information is done within that department. They take into account city code. They take into account, like I said, the traffic count that's already occurred. It's been underway for almost a month already. So we're hoping to have those results. Believe it or not, the reason why it does take a little bit longer is because of the bureaucracy that happens in permitting. But we're definitely going to have those results prior to releasing our NOFA. So I don't know if that was a direct answer to your question, but that's the one I have, that we've been just trying to do our very best. Like I said, that information that I just received, and that was the first time that I heard it. The other side of that property, it's not much bigger than I want to say that since we subdivided, I want to say it was a smaller I'm trying to remember the size of the whole site. No, it was 20 acres total, and we took 12. So you said 170 houses?
It's 191.
191. Okay.
We need to go to planning commission.
And let me ask you this. When we all spoke with you about 2.5 weeks ago, you said the study had not begun, and now you're saying it started a month ago. So for the traffic, so we're
Yeah, we've been having this discussion for over a month.
no. Last time we spoke, you said that it had not begun yet, or you didn't know, and
Right.
it would be
We,
done during the summer. And that's another thing. While we're in front of everybody, well, exactly why is this traffic study being done during the summer since there's 4 schools on there?
Yeah, good comment, Jane.
the traffic study's underway. We've just gotten to the point that we've gotten under option of the site. So we can't conduct a traffic study until we had an option agreement that went to council at the end of March. So we advanced the traffic study. This is what we've discussed. That typically our traffic study is done with the developer after the developer is selected. We've advanced the study. This is not even if we ahead of our federal requirement, based on the feedback we received in our first session. So
It's not a federal requirement, it's a city requirement, though.
The traffic study? No, it's federally required. It's required
also
by HUD.
I know it's also required by Chapter 42, and Chapter 42 stipulates that if the boundary streets are deemed insufficient to support the traffic on that street, then inside the subdivision, there has to be set aside at least half for what the street would be expanded. Like Buffalo Speedway between West Belfort and the Loop is 110 feet, where Stellink is just 100. I mean, that's a
Right.
good.
So that's why I had already discussed. So that typically the traffic study is just site specific, and it happens at the time when we select the developer. So we pushed the study ahead and we've expanded it a mile because of the feedback. So that's again when we had the discussion. Every time I have a discussion with this community and our other community, we learn more, and we've incorporated that feedback every time. So that's why we're very earnest by listening to what is being told to us, and we're doing our very best to incorporate that feedback. And that's why we're not here, because we don't care about your community and we don't care about the development and the home buyers that are potentially buying into the community. So I don't know what you mean by happening during the summer. Like I said, it's underway. We're
Well,
hoping.
Olivia, I think Jane's point,
Yes, please help me get clarity on
I
that.
really appreciate that you advanced it. I think that's awesome. The only point is that it's going to be not an accurate study if part of it doesn't happen now in the fall after school starts again, because there are 4 schools.
We just have time constraints. That's something that's completely out of our control. From where we started this process to where we are now, like I said, we advanced it so we can get. The school's just ended or is about to end this week.
No, they're done.
They're out.
Okay, so I don't have a child in HISD. She's beyond that. So we were able to capture at least, like I said, they've already gone out and done the count during the school year.
Okay.
So it's not going to be perfect. We're going to have to just settle into that. It's not going to give you everything we want, but because of where we started this process. And so we are not going to delay the study till August, because we have a timeline that we have to keep. We're under a federal contract with HUD. So we are, like I said, we are doing our best to get the information and be as accurate as possible. Because, again, we are using federal funds to cover the cost of the consultant. We don't want an inaccurate study. That's why we've extended we plan to extend our option agreement to make sure we get it in time. We get it. We're gonna wait and to make sure we have that information ahead of our NOFA and closing on the property.
Well, when would the traffic study have been done if you hadn't moved it forward?
It would have been done well after we closed. Well, it's not required until we select the developer.
Yeah.
And it's site specific.
I understand. So you moved it forward to get part of it during the summer, but if you'd left it where it was, would it have been during fall when school was in session?
Right, but we would have already owned the property. We would be owners of the
And
property, and it would only be site specific.
then you own it, and whatever. I don't know what to tell you, but why? So
I
you
don't
moved
I
it.
don't know what to tell you either, but we're not going to utilize federal funds on a property that's built or purchased for housing and then just let the site go. So that's why we're doing the
So
due diligence now.
so you're let me get this straight. You were going to do the traffic study sometime in the future, but you moved it forward because you found out, we said there's a lot of traffic and these schools cause the traffic. So you moved it forward so you could pick up summer. When were you going to do the traffic? I'm just trying to pin you down on the timeline. You said you moved it forward. What'd you move it forward from? From July or June or August or when?
So according to our timeline, we probably would have been at developer selection in October. And
So you
then we
moved it
probably
forward to get the traffic study done during the summer. Thank you for answering the question. Because October would have picked up all of the school traffic, and it wouldn't have been conducted during the last part of school and heading into Labor Day weekend and summer. So thank you for
okay, so
answering.
let me clear something up for you. Say we selected developer in October, we started the traffic study in December. With that, we would have been at the same result. And we're
No,
not
you wouldn't
trying,
have.
we
No,
are not, let me finish what I'm saying. Because I think you're trying to pin me down something, and that's being disingenuous.
no, it isn't. Y'all have
We
been
advanced the traffic study to try to capture as much of the school year as possible. We said it over and over again
Then why didn't
that
you leave it in
we are under
October when
time,
you had
we're under
captured
time
all of
constraints,
it?
we're under an option agreement, and you understand that. So
Why
we are
didn't you
doing
leave
our
it in
very best to
October?
capture as much information. It's not going to give you everything you want. And we
Why
have
didn't you
not
just do it
closed
in
on the
October?
property. I don't think you would have wanted us to get a traffic study that was site specific and that we would got into a position that we closed on a property that the city already owns and we would have built regardless. So we
No,
are incorporating your feedback and we're doing our very best. So I think that everyone's going to have to settle in on the fact that we were here, we're getting the information, we incorporate the valuable feedback we received today. So you may not get everything you want, neither will we. So we're getting to the best compromise for everyone. And so I appreciate everything you said today, everything you said all this time. We have been very, 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 very patient, and we've been trying to give us the much information that we can incorporate into the NOFA. And so
well,
what
you're
our
not being
goal is
patient.
to bring affordable housing to Stella Link. And I thought we were on the same page. We've been on the same page this whole time. So I don't understand why we're having this back and forth right now. And I've given you advanced information on all of this, and you know this all of this, Jane. So
No, I didn't know the
let's
traffic
not.
study was already underway.
You are very aware because we've had at least 2 meetings with you to give you this information.
No, you said the traffic studies weren't underway in the last meeting we had with y'all.
But you knew we were advancing, and you knew we were making our best efforts to get that traffic study underway. You were
No,
aware
I
of that.
didn't know you were
So
advancing it. I did
you
not.
have to be honest with your community because we've been having a lot of discussions with you and giving you direct information. That
I
would be
was
the
not aware you
best
were.
thing for everyone if we just stay on the same page.
I was not aware you were advancing it.
We told you
I would have
that.
been.
We told you that. We told you that you knew that.
No,
You knew that. You
no,
and the members of the Westwood Civic Center, we had several meetings and told you that. You knew that. And then we're
no.
not doing it just in the summer. We're not trying to get away with anything. And as soon as the results are there, we will release it with the NOFA and you'll have the information you need to move forward.
I'm just going to leave with no. I did not know you were advancing it.
Okay, so I'm just going to leave with yes, you did because we had that discussion. So are there any other comments regarding the connectivity so we can move forward? All right. Well, thank you everyone for your time. Thank you for the feedback. If there's anything else, you have our email address, and I think it's in the chat. If not, if you could repost it, please send us email. You know how to get to Social Pinpoint. If you don't, we could put that in the chat. Leave that information there. I don't know if there's any other information. Again, all of the studies during our due diligence process will be released at the time of the NOFA. We're making our best efforts to make sure that the community has all the information as we have it, as we can release it. Thank you so much for your time.